Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Stories of Resilience. I'm honored to be joined by our special guest, Kaitlyn, here today. So, Kaitlyn, thank you so much for making time, being here with us to share a part of your story. I'm excited to get into it. But before we do that, do you mind telling us maybe a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, right now, I currently serve as the wellness coordinator for Okapica's Project Hope. And this means that I get to work with a lot of marginalized communities and find out how I can do my part in amplifying and just supporting them as a whole. And these experiences have really inspired me to pursue a master's in marriage and family therapy, which is
Nice.
something that I'll be doing in the fall. So I'm super
Nice.
excited.
Okay.
But outside of that, I would describe myself as a reader, writer, musician. I really enjoy going cafe hopping, reading, or just watching like horror mystery related
Okay.
things. And I'm also involved in media here and
Nice. You
there.
said musician. I
Yeah.
didn't know that about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you play instruments, you sing. Like, what do you do?
I do play a few instruments and I also sing here and there. Yeah.
Yo, I think we need to record a second episode with
Oh no!
Kaitlyn here doing some musical performance.
Wow, I mean, if the podcast needs a jingle, I'm not
Hey,
volunteering, but I'm saying that would be a good idea.
how about if we get 100 views on this?
Oh,
We'll,
wow.
we'll
Right.
the
Whoa, I don't know
Kaitlyn
if that was
will
the
do
bargain.
it's an inside joke. It's an inside joke. But I heard you're also a big In Hyphen fan. Are you
Yes,
still
I
a big In
am.
Hyphen fan? Okay.
Yes, 100%.
I
Yeah.
don't know too much about them, but I just heard that one of the members is going solo. I know this isn't a K-pop podcast. We
Uh-huh.
won't delve too much into it, but I'm
Okay.
curious. How do you feel about, I guess, the move he sung? I think that's his name.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if this was a choice that he wanted to make, fully support him.
Wow.
But I think I am still kind of going through the different stages of grief
Mm,
about this transition because it was so sudden.
mm.
But yeah, do wish him all the best. And
He's
yeah.
if you're watching, we
If
wish
he's
you the
watching.
best. You never know, right? You never know.
Right.
So, hey, it'll be cool if he commented. You'd be like, hey, yeah, thank you for your best wishes. Yeah, give us a call.
Yeah.
Capica, please.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Not sponsored by Enhypen.
yes, not very
We
important.
wish.
Not sponsored by
Yeah.
Hyphen, but we're open. We're open to it. Um, but I know when we initially met talking about this podcast, today's episode, you shared a part of your story and a journey that you wanted to talk about today. And I really think, and I really believe that your story would resonate with a lot of people. It definitely resonated with me personally. And I really think that your story or the part of the journey that you're going to be sharing about today is going to provide a lot of strength, insight, encouragement to those that may be going through a similar journey that you have gone through and that you'll be talking about today. So today we'll be talking about your personal journey, moving from seeking external validation to you discovering your sense of worth more from within in yourself. And before we move on, I do want to make a note here, and I think we both agree that seeking validation is very common, right? It's a very human thing to want to feel heard, understood, seen, acknowledged, right? So it's not a bad thing. I think we both can agree that validation can be helpful at times. But there are also times when if validation is the thing that's defining our worth, that can really weigh heavy on us. And I think it could really affect our well-being and even go to a place that's unhealthy. And I think that's part of what your story is going to be about today.
Yes.
Right. So I'm excited to dive in. What made you want to share about this part of your story today? Why do you feel that this conversation is important to talk about?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, there isn't anything inherently wrong with wanting to be seen and heard because that's how we build community. And the lens that I'm taking is more related to my experience with it, where I was really treading that fine line between outsourcing my self-worth and wanting to be understood. And when I've had conversations about this with other people around that time, it seemed like it was a common theme for early adolescence. And at that time, that was something that I grappled really strongly with. So just wanted to take this as an opportunity to maybe share some of the things that I would have wanted to hear.
Yeah. And again, just thank you so much for being open and being vulnerable to share about your experiences. I think, again, a lot of people tuning in to this episode will learn a lot. I feel like I'll learn a lot today just having this conversation with you. When you look back, Kaitlyn, during that time, that season of your life, were there early signs, things that you started to first notice when you're like, oh yeah, like when I look back, I was seeking validation in this way to, in a way, find my sense of worth. Like, what were some of those things, and when did you start noticing that, or what were some of those signs?
Yeah. So it actually started pretty early on. So I've been in and out of the media industry since I was about like 6 or 7 years old. I can't say those two numbers anymore without it being
seven,
six.
Right?
Oh no!
Is that not a thing anymore? Or,
it is totally a thing.
Okay.
So that's all I see in my head right
Okay.
now.
Can't believe I did that right now. Okay, 6, 7.
But yeah, I've been in and out of the industry since that age, and around that time, I was scouted to join this like acting academy that a lot of the Disney Channel stars had like come out of.
Okay.
So growing up watching Disney Channel was a really big deal for me, and I wanted a lot of like screen time. I was like, oh, it's so cool to be on TV.
Right.
But at the time, I wasn't like signed to an agency. I was doing more like open calls or one-off projects that were related to background vocals or voiceover type work. So it was really meaningful for me to be a part of that experience. And every month they would have this event where a bunch of like casting directors and agents would come in, and we would do some kind of like a performance for them. We would recite the commercial that we did, or we would sing a song. It was more like a live audition type of thing. And I had been through a few of them, and I had gotten some really positive feedback from agents. They're like, yeah, we want to sign you. You did great. But it never really went through. And I had been through a few of them. I want to say maybe 3 of them. And it was always the same pattern of them saying like, yeah, we want you. And then no contract, no kind of follow-up. So my family and I had met with the kind of academy director, and we just kind of asked him like, hey, what's going on? And to paraphrase, he essentially said that, oh, you're great, you're talented, but you're just not sellable. Like who you are, like no one's looking for a little Asian girl for anything. Yeah, this is not a market where you would stand out. Your features aren't westernized enough. You just don't have that look. So after that, I was really discouraged because I never thought that being Asian was something that would work against me.
And this is, were you like 6?
I was little, yeah, and at the time I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but I just started being really self-conscious, like, oh, what does it mean to be too Asian? Because I grew up so close to my culture, I was always so proud of being Asian that it came as a shock to me. And I think after that, I started noticing how some of the other kids were treating me a little differently, and I don't know if it was like I felt so self-assured that I didn't notice before, but now that I had that idea in my head, I noticed that in classes, when we would run through our casting tapes for feedback, I would hear the other kids kind of whispering like, ew, an Asian, or
no way.
Yeah, and these were like kids my age too. But they would say like, ew, an Asian. They would say like, ching chong at me. They would tilt their eyes up at me every time I made eye contact with them. And I just felt really self-conscious, and I didn't really know what to do. So the way that I kind of went about being less Asian was, I remember doing really thick eyeliner, and I used to take my mom's makeup and I would just put it all over my face. I would use the colored hair clip extensions from those like half princess braid your hair doll things. Yeah, and I would clip that all over my hair, and I started going to the academy like that every week. And I think that was the first time where I wanted to change some version of myself in that space just so I could have community, because I wanted them to like me, and I didn't know how to go about it otherwise.
I can't like I have a young daughter,
Yeah.
and just to imagine like a young girl having to face that and deal with that, like
Mm-hmm.
for me that's very heartbreaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even at a
Mm-hmm.
young age, being called some of these like demeaning, insulting phrases and
Mm-hmm.
words, and yeah, I can't imagine how difficult and hard that was for you. I just have a couple of questions from what you're sharing. Is
Yeah.
were you like the only Asian kid in that academy? And then
Mm-hmm.
also, secondly, was there any change of how the other kids treated you after you changed kind of your appearance and,
Mm.
made some, I don't know, yeah, changes to your makeup and all that?
Yeah, so I was, I think, one of the few Asian
Mm,
identifying kids in that academy. At least I was the only one in my class
I
because we
see.
were broken up into different classes
Okay.
based on age and like skill
Mm,
level. And when I started changing parts of my
mm.
appearance, they kind of turned it into oh, now she looks weird. So it wasn't even, it didn't get the
Yeah.
feedback that
Right,
I
right,
wanted.
right.
But it was like, oh, why does she look like that now?
Oh
Like, what
gosh.
is she trying to do? So, yeah, that was my
Mm,
experience with that.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's
Mm.
yeah. How was that affecting you, like personally? How was that affecting
Mm-hmm.
just how life was, different areas of your life? I'm assuming maybe this has carried on not only when you were young, but as you're kind
Mm.
of growing into more of a youth and maybe middle school, high school. How was that? Those experiences, how's that affected you?
Yeah. So at that time, I think a lot of what I felt like the negative energy I had surrounding my identity
Mm.
kind of dissipated after I left the academy
Okay.
because I'm grateful to live in an area where I'm surrounded by people who look so much like
Mm,
me from
mm,
similar
right,
cultures.
right.
So being in that academy was that culture shock, I
Okay.
guess, for me to realize, oh, it's actually not cool to be Asian for
Mm,
some people.
mm,
But these ideas did come up for me again
okay.
when I re entered the media industry in high school.
Okay.
So I had taken a break and I focused more on like school theater productions
Mm,
instead. And that was great. Very community oriented,
mm,
collaborative environment. But when I started high school, I had the opportunity to do like an open modeling
okay.
casting call. And at the time, I was built, stronger than I
Mm,
am now because I was in a lot of sports.
mm,
And at that casting call, I remember thinking, okay, maybe this is my time to kind of rewrite that past
okay.
experience because it seemed like they wanted more diversity and inclusion in their
Okay.
project. And when I got there, I remember doing my audition, and the casting director was like, yeah, you're not really what we're looking for. You're too short, you're too big, your eyes are small, like you don't
Oh
fit the clothes
man.
correctly. Maybe we could refer you to our like mid-size or plus size department and then we could see if that would be a better
Oh my
fit for
gosh.
you. So that was like a whole other layer of I guess it just took out like pushed my self-esteem more
Yeah.
down the drain because I was already in a state of mind that wasn't very secure. I didn't have a very
Mm,
strong sense of self worth at the time. So having
mm,
someone say that to me was very
yeah.
discouraging. Yeah.
Mm,
And there were other things going on at school too that I feel further amplified this
okay.
experience for me. So,
Do you mind sharing
yeah,
a little bit about, what were some of those experiences in school that amplified? Yeah.
sure. So, there was a period of time where I had befriended some like the cool kids
Mm,
in my class. And I don't know how we started talking about this, but they had told me that, oh, we actually have like a ranking system for the attractiveness of all of the women in the school. And I was
mm,
like, that's kind of crazy. Why would
mm,
you do that? Why
right,
would you
right,
feel like that's okay to do?
right.
And completely unwarranted, they told me, oh, we ranked you like this because
Mm,
you're fat and medium ugly.
man.
And I was like, whoa. So having this messaging come from so many different people who don't even know me,
Right,
I
right.
think I took that to heart because I felt
Mm,
like the people who knew me were more
right,
biased
right.
and the people who didn't know me might have a more honest perception of
Mm,
who I was.
mm,
So yeah, that's kind of what was happening at the time.
It's kind of crazy because when you're kind of sharing this
Mm-hmm.
journey, right? It
Mm-hmm.
seemed like when you're young, you're being told like, "Hey, you're not Western enough. You don't have the look, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're great.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these skills, but you're not getting any contracts. You're not getting signed because,
Yeah.
again, like appearance, like you're not matching whatever the expectation is."
Right.
You step out of that, and it sounds like once you stepped out of that, got more into school theater, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
that was great experience, that was a
Yeah.
good experience, like
Mm-hmm.
you're able to find community there, maybe
Mm-hmm.
even a place of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe from that you felt like it just seemed like you felt maybe encouraged, hey, maybe I'll try going back into
Yeah.
that industry,
Mm-hmm.
only to go back in and be told kind of the same message almost,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like very
Yeah.
discouraging,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
accepting, like you don't fit, like you're not good enough, or
Mm-hmm.
you don't look a
Mm-hmm.
certain way, and then all
Yeah.
these things are happening at school. It's like Kaitlyn was going through so much, found hope and encouragement, went for it again, only
Yeah.
to kind of be pushed down again.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts? What are the feelings that you're experiencing during that time, even in that high school year where this ranking system, going back into
Mm-hmm.
industry, being told down at,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what were you feeling? What were you thinking?
I was in my own head a lot.
Mm,
I remember trying to be alone as often as I could,
mm,
and I didn't really want to have conversations with people, even if they were like uplifting conversations, because I just
mm,
didn't believe what they were
right,
saying.
right.
And yeah, it was really difficult. I
Mm,
definitely adopted some very unhealthy habits.
okay.
Like I stopped eating as often, and I remember losing
Mm,
so much weight. Like I was the
mm,
thinnest that I had been ever, but also the
mm,
most unhealthy.
okay.
I remember I would like black out at school sometimes
Oh
because
man.
I just wasn't taking care of myself.
Mm,
So I think the way that people were speaking about me to me really
right,
impacted me a lot
right.
negatively. Yeah.
It's so heavy. That's
I'm
that's
so
so heavy.
sorry.
No, no.
Yeah.
That's I again. I feel like this is a struggle that maybe not just not just women go through, right? Something that men also go through,
Mm.
but it's maybe not talked about a lot. It's
Yeah.
not really talked about. It's not
Mm-hmm.
really addressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even though it's heavy, I'm glad that you feel not only safe enough, but that you're willing to share this part
Mm.
of your journey. Because, like I said in the beginning, I think people listening in might be like, "Man, this is how I feel. This is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going through." Here is someone who's validating what I'm feeling and thinking at this
Mm-hmm.
moment,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get into it, but just how kind of turned around and changed that mindset and
Mm-hmm.
pattern. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's heavy, but I think it's good. I think it's very raw, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's something that people can relate to. Yeah, that's a lot. So you started to notice how this mindset pattern of thinking was affecting you
Mm-hmm.
negatively, um, maybe causing you to go into unhealthy habits or patterns.
Mm-hmm.
There's a turning point, right? There's a change that happens. There's a
Mm-hmm.
shift that takes place in your mindset of, hey, I need to start changing the
Mm-hmm.
way I think about myself,
Mm-hmm.
the way that the way that I'm maybe handling the situation and how it's affecting me negatively in a unhealthy manner.
Mm-hmm.
When did that start to take place? When did that shift in mindset? And
Mm-hmm.
when did that shift of, I want to change the way I'm thinking, I want to change my pattern of thought?
Mm-hmm.
When did that take place? Was there a catalyst? Were there events that happened that made you kind of like a light bulb moment, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey Kaitlyn, let's really start exploring or discovering and finding that self-worth in myself, and
Mm-hmm.
really valuing who I am as a person versus what everyone else is saying. I
Mm-hmm.
know that's a lot. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, it totally does.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I actually remember distinctly that moment that the switch flipped, and I was
Wow.
like, oh. So I had a friend who was going through something similar,
Okay.
and I think there was a certain sense of shame between people who were experiencing things like that. I felt very alone. I felt like I couldn't say it out loud.
Right, right.
And I don't know how my friend and I started talking about this, but it came out where we were going through basically the exact same thing, but we just identified differently because he's like an
Okay.
Asian American man and
Okay.
I'm Asian American woman. And I think the expectations that we have just within that intersectionality is so different.
Right,
So we had a conversation about it. And I think that was the first time that I had said it out loud and that I felt seen. Because in the past, when I would say it to like my loved ones, they would say, "Oh no, you're being ridiculous. Like you're fine. Like you look great. What they're saying is not true." And I'm grateful that they showed up for me in that way.
right.
And I think I was in a state of mind where I just couldn't believe what they were saying because I was like, well, of course you're gonna say that. You know, you're my family or you're my best friend. Like, of course you're gonna say that. But the way that I had talked about it with that friend was first he validated my experience. He was like, dude, that sucks. Like I can't believe someone said that to you. And I think I didn't know that I needed someone to just sit in solidarity with me and to be upset with me for a little bit. And through that conversation, we started talking about our experience and he was sharing some of his experience and I felt myself getting so upset. I was like, how dare they treat you like that? Because to me, his value didn't come from the way he looked. It was the kindness of his heart, the strength of his character, and so many other things. And I was like going on this whole rant and I was saying that to him. And he was like, yeah, but that's how we feel about you too. And I was like, oh, so you mean you don't hate me because you think I'm ugly? You feel like, oh, I have a kind heart. And there's just characteristics that mattered so much more than however I was presenting on the outside. And I think from that moment, I started to realize like, oh, I get so defensive and protective over my loved ones who may be going through something similar. And I didn't know that they were going through something similar because we never talked about it. And why can't I extend that same energy to myself? Like, why am I so hard on myself? Why am I so nitpicky with every little thing that maybe someone else wouldn't notice or things that wouldn't really matter? So I think that was kind of the catalyst for me having that conversation, being able to say it out loud for the first time and realize that, oh, there are people who can hold space for me in a way that is the most meaningful.
That's so powerful. I feel like a lot of times we struggle by ourselves inwardly, not knowing that there are others that can not only relate but validate our experiences, others that are maybe going through similar struggles. Right? And it's like to be able to find someone that's able to, like you said, hold that space for you, to be upset together, and to have this realization like, oh, it's not all about my appearance. Like people really believe and know that I'm a kind person. You know, I have a good heart, and they're looking at my my character more than my appearance. Right? And I think character is so important. I think it's more important than appearance, right? So that's so powerful that you're able to have that moment with your friend. Who's Asian American male, who's going through similar things as you, and to find kind of that solidarity. So that's powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, totally. I feel like a lot of the times in our culture we're taught to almost be afraid to ask for help. So in situations like that, we don't even know that we need help. So how do we know to even ask for it or to talk to someone? So I'm glad that however that conversation came about, that it happened.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up like culture too, and how culture plays a part. It's like, especially I can speak as a man, like in our culture, it's like, hey, you there's no such thing as like stress. There's no such thing as it's too hard, right, or too difficult, or you don't talk about problems. Like if there's a problem, you deal with it, right? But when you look at it, it's like we don't really deal with it well, right? So to be able to bring that up, to talk about it, to address it, I think that's so important. So once you've had that moment with your friend, what were some of the first steps that you took in this process of, okay, I'm going to start maybe changing, again, just this pattern of thinking into more positive and healthy route?
Yeah. So I really encourage myself to say things out loud more. I'm the
Mm,
type of person who has a really hard time speaking from the heart because
mm,
I'm worried to hurt someone
mm,
else or to say something that might come across differently than how I
mm,
intended it to. So the way that I encourage myself to talk about it more was to write. I used to
okay.
write a lot.
Mm,
I have like this bright yellow rage journal that I used to scribble in, and that was really helpful. And when I started undergrad, I was involved with more like mental health related
mm,
initiatives, more AAPI
mm,
programs, and I really found a strong sense of solidarity in those communities and seeing how there were so many common themes across
mm,
cultures that we could all just talk about and practice talking about it for the first time.
right.
And I feel like through that experience, I got to learn so much
Mm,
about myself
mm,
and so much about how supportive the community was if I let them in. Yeah.
mm. I feel like there's like this positive shift, right, in our conversation. Like I'm starting to
Yeah.
smile more. I'm like, yay, yes
Yay.
for Kaitlyn. What are some things that you started to notice? I know in the beginning we
Mm.
talked about what did you notice when it's affecting you maybe in a negative way, but as you
Mm-mm-mm.
change your mindset and you start to think more positively and
Mm-hmm.
finding worth in yourself,
Yeah.
what did you start to notice that was changing for you, or even your surroundings or experiences?
Yeah. I started to trust myself a lot more to go after things. I
Mm,
think because of my experience with media, all of it was a risk to me,
mm,
like to try.
right, right.
And because each time I tried, I was burned so badly, I stopped
Mm,
trying things for a long time.
mm,
And I think once I had that community and I had more courage
mm,
because I knew I had a support system, and I trusted myself more,
mm,
then I was able to, try for new positions, maybe
mm.
internships. I got back into the media industry
Okay.
again, again.
Third time's a charm.
Their time's a charm. I'm still in it now, so
Nice.
it's
Okay.
been a really good experience so
Okay.
far. Um, but yeah, I think I started to notice a lot of like positive shifts.
Mm,
I was more intentional with reframes. So
mm,
if something is coming up that is more negative, like for instance, oh my gosh, I didn't get this job,
mm.
I would encourage myself to reframe it into, okay, now I have this learning opportunity. What did I take away from this?
That's powerful.
Maybe I
Yeah.
can adjust my resume. Maybe I can
Yeah.
strengthen my interview
Yeah.
skills, but now I know what to expect.
Right.
So I
Right.
think that was the way that I was slowly microdosing that into my brain.
Mm, that that's
Yeah.
awesome because I feel like personally for me, I'd be like,
Yeah.
if I fail the interview, whatever it is, like, oh, I'm such a failure, right?
Oh, totally. I definitely experienced that too.
Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with me? Why am I like this?
Yeah.
But I think it's so important, like you mentioned, like hey, it's just the opportunity to learn from that
Hmm.
experience, right?
Hmm.
Or maybe that just wasn't the right fit, and there's something else that'd be a better fit for me, right? To
Hmm.
positively reframe that experience or the
Hmm.
result, even. So I think
Yeah.
that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those reframes were not like immediate.
Right.
I
Right.
let
Right.
myself be upset for a while first, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
which energy do I want to be in more?
Mm,
Do I want to be in this like, oh, everything sucks, or do
mm,
I want to be in, okay, how can I empower myself to take the
mm,
next step?
mm. I'm
Yeah.
glad you pointed that out because
Mm.
it makes you very human. Because it's gonna be like it's like, oh, Kaitlyn, after I'm okay. I'm like totally fine
Oh
after
no.
that.
Yeah, I was not okay. I enjoy crying. Crying was a great
Mm,
way for me to just process
mm,
that
mm, mm,
without saying everything.
mm,
Yeah, because
mm.
sometimes you don't have the words for it in the moment. You
Right,
just need to let it happen however it happens.
right, right.
Yeah.
Um, it's one question, but maybe broken down into two
Okay.
things. And my wife hates me about this. She's like, you say you have one question, but you have A, B, C, and D in that one question, right? But I'll keep it to A and B.
Okay.
But if you were to go back to that season of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kaitlyn in high school, Kaitlyn even at
Mm.
6 years old, 7 years
Mm-hmm.
old,
Mm-hmm.
um, that season of your life, what is something that you would want to tell yourself in that moment?
Mm.
Having experienced all of this, now you have the knowledge that you have now,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to yourself back then?
I think the first thing I would tell her is, yeah, girl, that sucks.
Mm.
That sucks so bad. I'm so sorry that someone treated you like that. I'm sorry that people said that to you. That was not okay.
Mm.
And just starting by validating that experience and letting her be mad. I'm like, if you want to be mad, cry, yell, whatever, just let it out.
Right.
And then talk to me about it.
Mm.
I think I would really encourage her to lean into her support system, even though the support system might not be saying the things that she wanted to hear, but just being willing to listen and to be willing to say things outside, like out loud for the first time. And for like the high school version of me, I would specifically say to keep track of all the moments that you're proud of yourself for, because now looking back, I was involved in a lot of things outside of that in high school, but I think this tiny, well, not tiny, but this negative experience overshadowed all of the other good things that I had going on. So I would want her to just take a moment to reflect on all the cool things she's doing and to reflect on how far she's come since she was 6 years old and how much she's grown into herself.
So like sentimental.
Yes.
To be able to look back, kind of younger self, and be like, hey, if I can tell my younger self this is what I would want to encourage them, and how I would want to encourage Kaitlyn at 6 and in high school.
Yeah.
What are some? This is my question B.
Okay, question B. I'm ready.
And if you're like, it's kind of the same question, we can edit this out. But what are some? I don't know. Maybe it's like a life lesson. Maybe it's a quotation from a book, a poem. Is there like a lesson? Is there something that really stood out that it's kind of like your life? I don't know how to say it, like a lifeline or a life
like my
mantra, or motto that you hold on to after you've gone through that journey.
Something that has carried me through. I don't know if this is a quote that I read somewhere. I can't quite remember, but it's like, my life is not meant to be defined by someone else's terms, but it's meant to be defined by my own. We are meant to be defined by our own terms because we all have such a unique combination of strengths that can't be derived from another place or another person. So I feel like us living our life through a more individual lens is something that is so empowering.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Not allowing others to define kind of who you are, right? But allowing yourself to define it on your own terms. Right? Did I say that correctly,
yes.
Kaitlyn? Okay.
Yes, you did. It's perfect.
I don't want to close it off and be like, no, that's not what I said. But that's such a powerful statement. Thank you so much, Kaitlyn, for being so vulnerable, being open about sharing this part of your story and your journey. For someone who's tuning in, that might be going through a similar struggle, the journey that you shared about. What's a way that you would like to encourage them?
Yeah, I would want to tell them that it's not going to be a shift that happens overnight. I wish it was, to unlearn maybe deriving your sense of worth from outside, especially if that was something that you were brought up with, whether directly or indirectly. And I would just really encourage them to have grace with themselves as they navigate this, because unlearning and healing is not a linear journey, and that's okay. We're going to be a work in progress for the rest of our lives, and that is okay. Because for me, I used to think that the end goal was to heal, but I don't see it that way anymore. I think for me, the end goal for my life is to continue learning and growing, to adopt new perspectives, and to learn how to cultivate my own joy. Because I feel like without your own joy that is meaningful for you, like any endeavor is not going to feel like it's fulfilling. So I would encourage them to give themselves grace and to practice saying it out loud, whether it's writing it out loud
Right,
in
right.
all caps.
In their yellow journal, the
Yes, in
rage
their
journal, right?
highlighter yellow rage journal. But yeah, if that's a method that works for them, totally go for it. Maybe talking to someone that they trust
Mm-mm.
who can hold space for them, finding a community of like minded people to be able to explore that a little more. Highly, highly
Mm.
encouraged. But I know it's hard. I know that
Mm.
asking for help or not even knowing what to ask is
Right,
difficult.
right.
So yeah, just
Mm.
giving yourself grace as you navigate
Yeah.
this and taking baby steps.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love how you said that healing is no longer your end goal, but it's learning and it's growing. And I feel like
Yeah.
even through this episode, as you shared your journey, through your growth, your experiences, I feel like you're helping a lot of people, right? You're helping them a lot to have insight, to really again to look within themselves and not to find their sense of self-worth through what others are saying and external validation, but to really find it in who they are as a person and allowing others to even speak into them, right? And allowing others to speak kindness and really highlight just the positive aspects and characteristics of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so powerful. And Kaitlyn, again, thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey. I know it's a lot of people are going to be able to relate to it. I know I keep saying that. I think this is going to be encouraging for so many listening in. And we want to thank all of you that are tuning in today's episode. We really hope that Kaitlyn's journey and her story has provided encouragement, has provided hope, insight, and even empowerment to take that next step. Maybe it is a yellow rage highlighter journal that you want to write out, and or to find somebody to talk to. So we really hope that Kaitlyn's story here has helped you out and provided some of that courage to take the next steps. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until we meet again, we hope that you can subscribe and like our channel, our YouTube channel here. And until then, please be safe and stay resilient. Thank you so much.